Welcome back to another Warcraft Rumble video, guys, and in this one we are covering the awesome new units that just came to the game. More importantly, the best talents you should go for each of them in order, because there are some tricky ones here. Now, before we get into all the good stuff, I do want to give a very special shout out to Warcraft Rumble for sponsoring today's video. Thank you so much, Warcraft Rumble. Now, the two minis, if you're not aware, you can get through the Hallows End event that is going on for about another 2 weeks. So we're a third of the way through the event. And boy, howdy, I'm having a great time going through it. But that's not the point of today's video. The two units that we can get are Dire Batlings and the Headless Horseman. Now, Dire Batlings are very interesting. So they are a flying squad, cycle fast, detect, and poisonous. Okay. Now, in order to get the detect and the poisonous, you do have to talent into them. So they're not poisonous all the time. It's really important to note, actually, because otherwise it's very confusing. But if we go to the talents, we have Midnight Call, which is on kill, gain stealth. Okay, so once it kills something, you gain stealth. Now, it doesn't necessarily say how long the stealth is, but I'm going to be honest, it isn't one of the top ones anyway, because keep in mind, these the Dire Batlings are actually a melee unit. Now, they are flying, but they're melee. So they actually have to get on top of the unit before they can actually start doing damage to it. So the idea of having them have to get a kill first before getting a beneficial effect from their talent doesn't really sound great to me, because they're very similar to basically a flying chicken unit in the game. Chickens are known to basically just be a good cycle unit, and that's basically what the Dire Batlings are as well, except that they're flying, so they do have a benefit against a mainly focused like a Hogger deck, which is mainly focused around melee ground units. Now, the other talent is going to be Soundbite. So Batlings Bite emit a sonic wave that damages a nearby enemy mini. So now this one is a little interesting. So Battling bites, so once it attacks, it emits a sonic wave that damages a nearby enemy mini. So it'll actually do AoE damage as it is attacking. So it makes it a good squad versus squad unit as well. But the last one here is Guano Happens, which essentially is periodically drop happy little accidents that poison the first enemy it touches. Okay, so now I personally actually really like this one, the poisonous one, because it does periodically drop poison on the ground that lasts for a pretty long time. Now let's go ahead and look at the rest of it here. I also picked up the on kill gain stealth, but if I were to do it in a certain order, I would recommend the poisonous one first, and then Soundbite because of the AoE damage, and then I would go Midnight's Call last. I plan on taking these guys to at least epic, so I'm going to be getting all three. But for those of you that are really trying to min max it or focus on whatever the best talent is, I truly think that the poisonous one or Soundbite is the best. I'm leaning more towards the poisonous one myself. Now, again, it is, where is it? Clarify it. So nothing can hide from the colony of flying fangs, fixing the feast on enemy forces. So it used to be in here, unless I'm missing it, but essentially, yeah, okay, there you go. So they can detect shadowed or like invis units. So they can actually attack them without being talented. I misspoke earlier, so you do not actually have to have a certain talent for it. They can find the stealth enemies themselves and then attack them, which is really good for both of the two units that are showing. Now, again, as a 2-cost unit, you're countering only a handful that wouldn't already be attacking you. You know, I'm thinking like Huntress. Obviously, it's not a big benefit to the Huntress because Huntress is the range and they're going to attack you first anyway and literally clear out your Batlings. But really good unit nonetheless. I highly recommend using them. In fact, they're actually a fantastic unit for the limited time event going on as well within Hallows End. Now, which is going to be the Darkshire missions. You can see that I've already completed all 30 of my surviving the Darkshire missions, which I'll cover in a different video on what is the best strategy to do that. Because honestly, I've had a lot of people ask me, like, what is the best way of doing it? Like, what is the best deck? And some people are saying there's not a best deck, and I beg to differ, because this next quest right here, where it says kill skeletons with skeletons in Darkshire, there is actually a go-to deck that is going to be fantastic for that. So we're going to be talking about that here in a second. Well, in another video, but the Dire Batlings are actually phenomenal in this, because as they drop poison, you know, they just keep circling. So the more poison they drop, you can literally just put them in a single lane, keep dropping them as a cycle unit, and you're going to have poison all over the ground to basically wipe away any and all enemies as they go in to attack you, which is really, really helpful, because my son and I actually both play Warcraft Rumble, and he is struggling to beat it, and he doesn't have the Batlings yet, so I gave him the best path to victory in order to get the Batlings, and he's actually already doing better with it. Now, the other new mini that we got is none other than the Headless Horseman. So he's all the way down here at the bottom, because believe it or not, I don't even have him yet. Now, we're going to cover in a different video how to actually unlock the Headless Horseman fastest or faster, because technically you shouldn't be able to get him until the 3rd week. However, using the strategy that we're using, you can actually get him earlier. So the Headless Horseman is a 5-cost unit. You can see that he does melee attack with his sword, but then he also periodically throws his head. You can see actually at range as well, and he does a poisonous dot over time. So very good unit as well. His other talents or traits are as follows. So the description is: fool around and find out. Don't lose your head against the pumpkin tossing speedy skinster. So that's the stats. He's a melee, AoE, fast, poisonous, elemental, and bombard. Now, for a non-tank unit, he does have a lot of health at 1,550. So keep that in mind. He's a pretty beefy unit. Now, he does cost 5 cost, but still, he does a lot of good things. The only thing he really suffers from is flying units. But let's go ahead and look at his talents, if we will. All right, so these are the talents. First is Night's Watch. This is very similar to the Perched Dragon talent that we have on Drakes, but this one is remain at the deployed location, attacking enemies who approach. So basically, you can mark him to defend a certain area or a lane if you want, and he will just defend it until it dies. Now, I can see certain situations where that's helpful. Certain PvP maps, I could see that maybe being beneficial to really just shut down a lane. But again, it just makes the other player play a flying unit that way to kill him. Because again, he does have range. He does do AoE. He does do poison. So he's really good against melee. And he has a ton of health. But he can't attack flying units. So that's his downfall, truly. So that one is interesting. Now, the Decapitate. So on kill, gain Bloodlust for 5 seconds. So after he gets a kill, he gets Bloodlusted for 5 seconds. Now, again, he is a very much a anti-squad unit in the sense of he just throws his head and does an AoE of damage. So he could be getting this pretty quickly. But again, I'm almost positive it doesn't stack. So this is a nice to have, but one of those things where, like, think about the frequency at which it's going to benefit you. Now, if we go to the last talent, it says Nay Death Experience, like near death experience. See what they did there? I like it. So Nay Death Experience at 40% health, heal to 80% health, and stun nearby enemies. Ability has 1 charge. Now, this one, boy howdy, this is a interesting one. Now, keep in mind what I said about his tankiness. He has a ton of health, and he does a lot of good against melee units and squad units. So once he gets basically halfway beaten at 40% health, he will double his health and then stun everyone. Dang, it doesn't say how long the stun is, and I don't have him yet in order to test that. But boy howdy, this is going to be a sick talent. This is a must pick up talent. I truly think that this talent is going to make Headless Horseman like a unit that we are all going to wish that we heavily invested in during this event. Because keep in mind, the Headless Horseman of these 2 units is actually very temporary. You can only get him during this event. Now, they did sort of allude to you can maybe get him at future events, but for right now, we know for sure in about 2 weeks when this event ends, he's gone for a foreseeable future. So I personally, whenever I get to unlock him, I'm going to do everything I can to use all of my big red buttons to get as many copies of him as I can, because I want this talent. This talent looks sick. And yes, he's a 5-star unit, and that can be a little intimidating, but he basically gets not a second life, but it really almost is like you're doubling his health. You get 40% basically free health and stun everything. And then knowing that he gets a stun, he's probably going to then throw his head, which is going to do AoE poisonous damage, which is probably going to clear the wave and keep him alive in most cases. I really think this is a really, really good talent. This is basically a must pick up. Outside of that, either talent is fine, but this is just light years above better than any of the rest of them. So if you don't get Nay Death Experience first, you're making a huge mistake, and I'm sorry. Like you did wrong. You did wrong by yourself. But so instead, don't make that mistake. Make sure you get Nay Death Experience. And yeah, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know which of these talents you agree with me on my take on which talents are the best. Which of these units are you most excited by? And most importantly, thank you so much to Warcraft Rumble for sponsoring today's video. And I hope to see you guys in a video soon. See you later. Bye.